Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Dad Has No Game. Today, I'm starting a new series where I'll be playing through an old game, Train Valley 2. My objective in creating this series is twofold. I want to learn a bit more about how to record and edit videos, and I need some content to do this with. As such, I'll be trying out new things such as recording myself in real time while playing the game, as well as trying to do voiceovers on pre-recorded playthroughs and content. I may even try to do a live stream at some point down the road. But for you, this is going to be an introduction and a tutorial of Train Valley 2, as well as a walkthrough of each level in the game in hopes of showing how to complete all objectives for each level. I'm not too hung up on achievements myself, but we'll see where the series takes us. Perhaps I can release some videos for the achievements down the road, but that's not really what I'm intending on to begin with here. I do intend for this format to be fairly consistent throughout, where I'll be tackling one level per episode, but as mentioned in the first one here, I'm going to be giving an overview of the game, a bit of a tutorial, and then we'll be playing through the first level while I explain more of the interface and the controls. Train Valley 2 is not a new game. It was released back in 2018, but there's still a strong community supporting and developing content for the game. For those of you who have had the misfortune of never having played it before, I highly recommend giving it a try. As mentioned, Train Valley 2 has been around for a while, and I understand I'm not the first person to put together a walkthrough of these levels. In fact, some of the other walkthroughs out there are the only reason I was able to make it through some of the levels in the game to begin with. So the intention here is not to necessarily show you anything new, or at least not anything that's not already out there. It's to give me a platform to try new things, and if I can introduce anyone to this fantastic little game while I'm at it, all the better. So at its core, Train Valley 2 is a puzzle game mixed with time and resource management. I'm a big fan of these genres, and I have really enjoyed myself with this game. That being said, if you have any recommendations for other games similar to this, please take a few seconds to mention it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So, when we start the game, we begin on the title screen. We have options to start the game. We can manage our add-ons. We can adjust settings. And we can quit. I'm not going to be jumping into add-ins at this point, as we are just going to be playing through the initial levels of the game. But let's start with settings, and then we'll dive in. So first, we have our language. This is pretty straightforward. Pick one that you understand. Now for me this is relatively simple, because at best I only have a basic grasp on the English language, and despite my best efforts, I haven't had any luck in becoming bilingual. Next is sound settings. By default, you'll see that the sound effects and music are both turned up all the way. I've kept my settings this way because I quite enjoy hearing the music. It's pretty calming. And the sound effects, well, they're beneficial, as it's good to not only see, but hear what's happening in the game. And by default, the balance is pretty good. Now, I may be adjusting these as I go through these tutorials, and if I find a better balance in regards to recording these videos, but for now, I'm leaving it alone. So, after sound is video settings. Here we can set our screen resolution, we can choose between full screen and windowed mode. You can select anti-aliasing if you want to try to get a bit better quality on your screen. Now the machine I'm playing on here, it's not by any means a powerhouse, and it's not really the most graphical intensive game either, so I've left this enabled. In the end, I can't really say if I've noticed much difference either way. If you, playing this game, are noticing any performance issues, you can adjust the quality slider here to take some of the load off your system. You can also adjust the interface scale. I prefer something in the middle here, too big and you're endlessly scrolling, and if I set it too small I'd have to go see my optometrist before I could finish recording this series. The target frame rate should be something that your monitor is capable of, and as high as possible. So next we're going to get into the game settings. I prefer to start with the level pause so I can have a look around and try to figure things out before the timer starts. You can reset your game progress, but I don't think you'll catch me doing this. I'm kinda proud of my 5 stars on each level, and I'm not sure I'll be able to do it again, even in this series. And I'm honestly not too sure about turn building mode off automatically. I haven't played around much, but I did try both settings in preparation for this video, and I didn't notice a big difference either way. If you know more, please let me know in the comments. And lastly are the controls. Now I'm gonna level with you here. There are folks out there who can keyboard shortcut everything. These are probably the same folks that can use pivot tables in Microsoft Excel without having to look it up each time, and that is not me. All I use the keyboard for is pressing the spacebar for pausing and unpausing the game. Everything else I do with the mouse. So you can disable or enable gamepad support, but I'm perfectly happy with the mouse, as I mentioned. This is why I leave the screen edge camera movement enabled. If disabled, you'll need to move the screen around with your keyboard controls. And it is the first option here, but I mention it last. And if you're one of those kinds of people who use their mouse wheel wrong, I mean incorrectly or backwards, well, the creators of this game have made it possible for you to continue doing things your way. You can reassign keyboard shortcuts to your heart's content, but it's not something you're going to see me worrying about. Remember, if you do change any settings, you'll have to apply them before going back, otherwise your settings will not change. And I guess that wraps up our settings menu here. Let's head back and get into the game. I think I mentioned this previously, but I've already played through the game. When you play, you're only going to see the level that you're currently on, as well as any previous levels that you've completed. Note that the game keeps track of the number of stars that you earned for each level. You can go back and replay previous levels and try to get those full 5 stars. You can also check on the statistics to see how your scores compare to those of the community. I don't really go in here all that often as my ego's fragile enough already. So we're going to start here with the first level, the Forestry. It's a great level to get your feet wet and to understand the basics of the game. So when we first select a level, we're given a briefing screen, and this tells us of our objectives to get the full 5-star score in the game. In this case, we need to complete the game in under 5 minutes, the level in under 5 minutes, to get a full 3 stars for time. We also need to earn at least $40,000, which we will achieve in this case by completing the level. But on some levels, the earnings goal will not be achieved if you complete the bare minimum tasks. So this is something to keep in mind when moving forward. I'll try to remember to mention this on any levels where it applies. And finally, we don't want to crash any trains. This is something to avoid even if it's not an objective on a level. It costs time and money to repair trains and the tracks that are destroyed in an accident. So when we first start off a level, we have this general overview here. I'm going to start going through the interface. We're going to start at the top right hand corner here, where we have our game speed and our pause button. So the game, in my settings, I've chosen to start each level paused so that I have a chance to look things over and see if I can come up with a strategy ahead of time. We have our game speed, we have normal, we have 2x, and we have 4x. Now, you've probably already learned this about me, but I'm not the fastest guy. I play on normal game speed, and at the end of a level, if I'm trying to get through a couple of things because my planning wasn't the greatest, then I'll do the 2x or 4x to try to make up some real time. But generally speaking, I just live in normal game speed mode. Further down the right hand side we have our objectives. So these were what we saw in the last screen, where we need to complete the level in under 5 minutes in order to get the full 3 stars. We need to earn our $40,000, and we're not allowed to crash any trains. So over here on the left, we have at the top, we have our working capital. This is how much money we have in the bank right now. So we can use that to buy tracks and upgrade trains, or to build production facilities. It's also used if we want to demolish anything. You can spend money to demolish items that are, or obstacles that are out in your way in the level. Down here on the left hand side, we have our train inventory. So when we start off on level 1 here in the forestry, we're using steam trains. They're not the fastest trains in the world, and they have a capacity of 2 workers or production units. And we'll see a little bit more of that as we move in through the game. So looking around the screen itself, we have several buildings here. So to start, we have a city. A city is where workers are produced. In this level, we have 1 city. In future levels, you'll see that there's more than 1 city in some cases, but it produces workers. Workers are what the game uses to do things. So in this case, we have a logging camp where we will transport workers who will in turn create logs. These logs can be sent over to the lumber mill, which has yet to be built. We'll have to spend some money to build this production facility. The lumber mill also requires workers in order to produce the boards. And you'll see down here in our city, we have tasks that need to be completed so that we can complete the level. We require 2 logs and 6 boards to be delivered back to the city in order to actually complete the level. So the core of the game is to move trains and resources and people around in order to complete all of these tasks in the amount of time required and to complete the objectives. So to lay tracks, on the left hand side here we select track building mode, and that brings up the blue highlighted squares. And this is where you can start building tracks from. If you try to start building tracks from anywhere else on the board, it's not going to work. You can also see that there's some places on the board that are marked in red. These are places that if you try to build tracks, it's going to cost you some extra money. So you want to try to avoid those to save on costs of production. In this case, we need to connect our city to the logging camp so that we can transport workers there and create some logs. So we'll do that by dragging our mouse over. You can see it's going to cost us $6,000 to create this section of track. So we can do that, and we can click on the workers here to send them on a train. And now it's time to press play and start the game. The game on level 1 is asking you if you want to do a tutorial. I'm your tutorial, congratulations. So we're going to skip this. So as the train progresses, it'll go in there and it'll automatically start building units. And you'll notice the city continually builds new workers. So as that happens, we can send them So I'm going to pause it here so we can go through another quick little bit. But we've got our production facility here to build boards. This is our lumber mill. It's going to cost us $10,000 to build this. Now we've got money in the bank, so we have enough money to do this. In some levels, you're going to have to earn some money before you have enough to do this. But in our case, to start off, we've got enough. So I'm going to build that out, and you'll notice that we get some tracks. These can be connected to the rest of our tracks. So I want to connect this facility to our city so that we can send some workers there. So you'll notice I created the tracks, and I have an intersection here. The intersection is showing which way a train is going to go. So we get to switch our tracks. So in this case, I want to switch the tracks so that they're pointing up there. And now we can send out some workers to that facility. You'll see here now that our logging camp has produced 2 woods, and we have 2 workers in the background making more wood. Once they're ready, we can send more workers there, but you can never have more than 4. In this case, you see 2 out of 4. So that means we can never have more than 4 workers waiting while production is happening. So that's something else to watch out for. So we're going to send 2 more workers over there. And it's almost time to start thinking about sending some of our raw lumber, our logs, over to our manufacturing plant, to our sawmill to make boards. So we'll do that now. We'll connect these up with some more tracks, and you'll notice that you can't build through everything, right? We've got an obstacle in the way there, so we have to work our way around it. So we're gonna work our way through these trees and then back down and connect like that. Another alternative to this would be to just building around the corner here. But I try to stay away from doing things like this because trains can get in each other's way while you're playing the game. So if I needed to send a train up here, and I also needed to send some logs up here, the trains might get tangled up in this intersection here. So I do like to build like this so that I can have the trains going in any direction that I choose. In some levels you might also complete circles like this so that I could run boards, for example, back to the city in the alternate way, but in this particular level we don't have to worry about that. So anyways, we're gonna get running here again, make sure that we've got everything that we need. So I've got 2 more workers on my way over to the logging camp. I'm gonna send 2 more there, and I also need to start sending some boards over to the sawmill, so some logs over to the sawmill so that they can get produced. See, now I gotta be careful here that I don't crash my trains into each other. You'll also notice that I can't send another train right now because I already had 2 on the board. So now I've got to send some more. So send more wood across, more logs. Now I'm a little bit worried these trains, oh no, they're not going to hit each other, so that's good. I need to get 2 logs back to the city, so that's what I'm going to do next here. I'm going to send my logs back to the city. I've got all of my boards completed, so I can send those across. I'm going to need to send some people, some more workers into the camp here as well, into the lumber yard. So we can do that. Then after that's done, I'm going to need to send all of my boards back to the city, and things will be completed. Something to keep in mind, if your train is about to crash, you can click on this and it'll stop. If you sent a train in the wrong direction, you can click the back button here and it'll turn the train around and it'll start going the other way. Or you can just stop him, and then when he's ready to go, you can do that again. Now something else to keep in mind, lots to keep in mind, is some levels objectives are to not stop any trains. So you've got to be very careful about how you handle that. Now I've got some secrets for this as well. So you can take, and it doesn't count that a train is stopped until it's completely stopped. So you can slow it down and start it, and then slow it down and then start it. So you can slow a train down to get to where you want without actually stopping it. But you need to be careful that you don't lose an objective. I've lost a lot of levels that way and had to start over. So here we go. We've got the last of our boards heading for the city, and I'll show you how this works now. We can double time and we can quadruple time. And that gets us through the level. And you'll see here we got our 5 stars. I beat it in under 5 minutes. We got our $48,000, which beats the 40,000, and we avoided train crashes. So, I hope this was entertaining and somewhat informative introduction to Train Valley 2. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next one.